Cadillac have made a 4-man shortlist for their 2 Formula 1 seats heading into the 2026 season. Now, obviously, Cadillac are a brand new team and they will be using the Ferrari power unit, but does that mean that Ferrari have a say in one of their seats? As of right now, we do not know the full inclinations of that Ferrari power unit deal, but what we do know is the 4 names that are reportedly on the shortlist for them for 2026. Now, starting off with the 4 names, we have Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, Guanyu Zhou and Mick Schumacher. Now, Sergio Perez is the only candidate who has talked to Cadillac as a whole over the course of a potential deal, and obviously that makes him the leading candidate. But there is supposed to be interest in the likes of Valtteri Bottas, Guanyu Zhou and Mick Schumacher, who all have Formula 1 experience, to join their team. Now, there was an expectation that Cadillac would be putting in an American driver, but as it stands right now, that expectation does not seem to be coming true. Now, it is going to be interesting to see how it sort of is handled by Cadillac when they do actually put their team together, because they've got some really good people behind the scenes already. They're aggressively hiring, as are a lot of teams on the grid at the moment. And I think it's really good to see that Cadillac are, realistically, they're taking this seriously. They're not coming in and thinking, oh, we're an okay team. We'll just finish at the bottom half for the first couple of years until we've got our own power unit and stuff. They're coming straight in and going, we're going for the jugular. We want some good drivers and we want to push forward. Now, for me, if I was Cadillac, my 2 drivers would be Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, because there you've got 2 extremes. You've got Valtteri Bottas, who has been in a team that builds the best possible car. And then with Sergio Perez, you've got a team that builds the car directed just at one driver. And I think if you're going to be a midfield team, you're going to be one of those bottom teams, you want Sergio Perez. He is sort of, in my opinion, if you had a world championship for mid-table drivers, Sergio Perez would have won them all, because he is unbelievable in those sorts of teams and dragging the most performance out of those lesser cars. Now, I don't necessarily think he can do it with the better cars, but that's obviously a different discussion. And with Valtteri Bottas, you've seen on occasion, on pace, he was equal to Lewis Hamilton in that Mercedes stint on occasion. I'm not saying it was consistent, and that's one of the reasons why Valtteri Bottas was never able to challenge for the World Championship, because he was never able to put up consistent pace and a consistent fight. He came into every season thinking that he was going to be able to win the World Championship and that he was going to be able to battle up against Lewis Hamilton and go head-to-head across the course of an entire season. But ultimately, it never ended up like that. But Valtteri always gave Hamilton a really good run for his money. And in my opinion, that is what you need in a driver. And I think Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez would be a brilliant partnership. 2 experienced drivers who know what they're talking about and know where the Formula 1 grid sort of needs to head. Both will have sort of an inclination on the 2026 regulations in regards to Sergio Perez and Red Bull, Valtteri Bottas and Mercedes. Obviously, I'm not sure the full involvement that Perez still has at Red Bull Racing, but I do believe he's under an ambassadorial role at the moment for this 2025 season as they sort of try and help him find another seat. But it's one of those for me where I think they're the best sort of partnership that you can have. And then you look at the 2 other candidates, Guanyu Zhou and Mick Schumacher. Now, Guanyu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas were obviously partners at Sauber, Alfa Romeo, whatever you want to call them, over the course of, was it 2 seasons, I think, in the end, where they were partners. And I think that's sort of really interesting to mention, because I think that Guanyu Zhou, I don't think he's anything special, and that's sort of where the problem comes into this, because if you're going to go with an experienced head and a younger head, you want that younger head to be sort of exactly sort of the type of driver that you think can take you forward to a world championship. And I personally, I don't believe that Guanyu Zhou could be that driver. I don't believe that Guanyu Zhou has the pace to be that driver, if I'm completely honest. And obviously, that's something which would need to be dealt with by, obviously, Cadillac, if that is what they're going to go for. But obviously, I think Guanyu Zhou probably has a lot more to give and a lot more to show in regards to being in Formula 1. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had that opportunity at Ferrari. And that's sort of the situation, which sort of means that I think he may have a shoe-in. I'm not saying he's guaranteed the seat by any means, but could certainly have a shoe-in regards to that, in regards to the Ferrari power unit conversation. Now, then Mick Schumacher. Now, Mick has been out the sport for, 3 years now? Since he moved to, he went to be the reserve driver at, he went to be the reserve driver at Mercedes then moved over to Alpine to be a part of the endurance championships. And obviously, it's one of those for me where, do I think Mick Schumacher's good enough to race in Formula One? Yes. I believe that he was wrongly done in regards to the Haas team, in my opinion. I think that he was put in a car that they didn't really care about. They had no intention of developing, and they didn't really... In my opinion, I don't think Gunter Steiner's a good team principal. Let's just throw it out there. And that is sort of where the problem comes with Mick Schumacher, is I don't think we truly know how good he actually is or how good he could be, because I don't think he's ever had a seat in Formula One that gives him the opportunity to grow confidence. And I think if you look in regards to sort of like race head-to-heads and things like that, now I'm not saying race head-to-heads are things you should go off. I'm fairly sure Mick beat his teammate, Nikita Mazepin, obviously, and beat Kevin Magnussen over the course of the second half of the season. Yet it was Magnussen that stayed, and it was Schumacher which was moved on to pastures new. And that's just something that I didn't agree with at the time, and I even less so agree with it now looking back. It just felt as if Schumacher was being targeted because he was a young driver and Steiner had a relationship with Kevin Magnussen. Now, obviously, Ayu Komatsu has done an excellent job with the Haas team, replacing both K-Mag and Hulkenberg with Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon, in which I think is a brilliant partnership that they've now got at Haas. And it's one of those where if Mick does get the drive at Cadillac, I just hope that they do provide a car that's capable of showing truly what he's capable of, whether that be battling for points or sort of maybe even podiums, wins. You never know, because as much as Cadillac are coming in regards as a new team, they've had probably more time and they've got more time to focus. They haven't got to worry about race weekends. They haven't got to worry about current drivers. They haven't got to worry about current dilemmas going on at the track or cost cap issues or anything like that, because they're not racing right now. So I assume they'll have been given a budget that they have to work in so they don't get in trouble and stuff. But for me, I think Cadillac, I think they should come in and be in a decent place. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. Now, obviously, when it comes to Sergio Perez, as we mentioned earlier, he's the only one that spoke to the team. He's considered the leading candidate. But I am led to believe that he's also been having conversations with Alpine over the potential seat there to take over from Franco Colapinto at the end of the season, and maybe even Pierre Gasly. But obviously we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that one, because it's a really different circumstance at Alpine, obviously, with their sort of second driver, main drive. They're just whole debacle at Alpine just isn't really great, especially when you think about what happened with Ollie Oakes a few weeks ago with the situation going on with his brother and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what does happen in regards to both Cadillac and Alpine. Who are your drivers to take that Cadillac seat? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you turn on that notification bell, and you stay tuned for all of my latest Formula 1 content heading your way. Obviously, we've got the Canadian Grand Prix coming up over the course of the next few days. So make sure you've hit the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay tuned for all the content around the Canadian GP.